Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question, and that is to understand why is it so difficult to break out of the victim mentality. After you've been in a relationship or many relationships with people who have broken your heart, who have betrayed you, who have violated your trust, who have used you or abused you, so who have left you high and dry. How do you sort of get back to square one and alignment and feeling good again, especially with your I am? And especially, and so I think, to basically, how do you move forward from that victim mentality? And especially a victim mentality that's been created through a number of exploitative or manipulative relationships where you were rendered powerless, helpless, not in control because you are with someone who is a bully, a narcissist, a psychopath, someone who is, overwhelming and doesn't really, have that present feeling of presence, but that is more sort of an overhanded, very hard-handed, overwhelming individual. How do you get out of that victim mentality? I think that's a great viewer question. It's important to understand that, if you have that victim mentality, that you've been victimized and it just keeps continuing and you're having trouble sort of break out of it or pop out of that, shell, oftentimes is because it's any change would contradict that truth for you. So a lot of people, if they are harboring inside this belief that they have been victimized to the point of really being scarred or damaged, they might feel part of their identity is being a victim. And this oftentimes can then be like a self-fulfilling prophecy where they just find themselves again and again and again being used, taken advantage of, exploited, not respected. And, they think it's due to the world. Well, what if it's actually due to you? Oftentimes that does not sit right. Peace and harmony, it was not my fault that they did this and this. They did not know better. They cheated on me. They lied on me. They betrayed me. So if you've experienced this a lot, where you haven't been heard, you haven't been listened to, you haven't felt acknowledged or validated, you might have been really isolated, from an individual or individuals apart from your peers, your friends. You might have just sort of been, outside of that support circle or that support group, support system. And because of this, you're sort of feeling like the odd man out, which then can be interpreted, male or female, interpreted that, I am a victim. I'm a victim of circumstance. And that's, but hindsight is 2020. To emerge from this mindset, I would say, or attitude, or what oftentimes becomes a temperament, mood, and then identity of being a victim, is because any assertion other than that would contradict your truth. So it feels false, it feels fake, it feels like pretend, it's not the real you. So people have a trouble finding an authentic self that is empowered, that isn't sort of tinged with the hurt, the anxiety, the overwhelm that can come as baggage from feeling victimized. I mean, it's just a natural process, I think, that, people would feel that way because it's usually a truth that is conditioned or programmed in the past, where you had derived a meaning or interpretation from that I am, the odd, I am, isolated, I am cut off, I am missing, I have a deficit. So, or I'm not, I don't fit in. So sometimes these can be very painful feelings. Other times they can be channeled to the positive and really a foundation for a great personal development with great emotional intelligence. Because it's kind of like, it becomes really like the large vista of, owning your perspective, and kind of like the Thoreau, Walden's Pond, you become really, a keen observer of the human condition, especially as, man versus himself, man versus man, man versus the world. You're able to see things much more clearly, I would say, after you've emerged from these formative experiences where you might have felt this way. And you're finding that if you keep that hat on, I'm a victim, it will shrink your world. It'll keep you looking down. You won't reach for the stars. You won't even think of, that there's miraculous change and growth that can come from your life. You might not ever, feel like I can't laugh or I can't cry, or, you feel that your spectrum of your behaviors and your ongoing lifestyle is very held back, especially in the midst of a pandemic when people can't go out. I think it might exacerbate that feeling. And how do I rise up over it and become, have leverage over this, and realizing that a victim mentality was created and reinforced, but also there was a meaning that one personally extrapolated or took out of it, which then you can reframe. But being a victim, is really oftentimes felt on a very personal level, and it might feel like a very permanent, and it can be very inhibiting. But yet when you realize that you hold the keys to get you outside of that identity, and boost your personal power, if that makes sense, because you can alchemize and transform that experience to one of strength, one of independence, one of knowledge, and one of wisdom, and then all sorts of other great attributes that can come off. You count your blessings rather than counting your problem. You might, have a great sense of humor. You might be able, you might have really strong accents then in the arts or communication, originality, because you are original, because that's an attractive quality. Own your weirdness. That's, Zappos, that's their mission statement, that they like people who are unique. They like people who are trendsetters. They like people who are, original, who are creative. And that is actually a positive quality rather than it being considered a damaging quality. So it's a flipping of the interpretation. Even though in the midst of the moment it might be very hurtful, you've actually rised above it, and that actually had to happen for a reason, because it's galvanized you into the person and the strength and the resilience that you are today. So, removing the victimhood is important to understand what doors are you shutting, because it would contradict your truth. Someone from this and this, this could never happen. This contradicts my truth. When it can be a negative mindset, which continues this victim mentality. No one is ever here for me. I'm always getting the raw end of the deal. I can't believe this happens again. And then people then interpret this situation as, the world is out to get me. Life is too hard. I can't handle this. There's all sorts of meaning that then create a reactivity, an emotional body of reactivity. So the emotional body really will keep that victim in place. It'll reaffirm it. It'll get reasons for it to give it more steam, because that, that for you've held on to that as your truth. So anything to the opposite might be very uncomfortable, because it would contradict your truth. Contradict your truth of being alone. No one understands me. No one is like me. I'm damaged beyond repair. I've got scars that'll never heal. All these, heavy situations that, people will then drag on being a victim. And, sometimes then they will then take it even further and further sabotage themselves or sabotage their career, because to succeed would contradict their truth. To make it would contradict their truth. To be themselves would contradict their truth, because oftentimes you develop a victim mentality to appease another, because you had to survive in the moment. And particularly if that was in an ongoing situation that you could not be free from. In other words, you felt captive by an abuser. If this was your parent or your teacher or your priest or what have you, oftentimes that might feel that, you don't have any other I am outside of that. You don't able to see, above and beyond. you're not able to have that faith and that trust within. It will, being betrayed will violate trust. You'll say, my trust has been so violated, I don't trust anyone anymore. So you have these big sweeping generalizations that then people then live their life by, which is all fine and dandy. But if it's causing you a lot of suffering, or it's causing you not to succeed in certain pockets where you really should be able to, and you actually want to be able to succeed, but you keep following things up. You're not organizing your time. You're not organizing your materials. You're late to places. You forgot something. You might become a neurotic perfectionist. And then and anything would be to numb out that feeling of victimization, to sort of get a buffer between it. But yet, if that victim I am is still there, you really have to be able to smoke that out and sort of get that out, especially if it's hindering you in your life. Because that was then, if you still have one toe in the past and you're trying to do the emotional splits to keep another foot in the, you're going to be off balance. You're not sort of, grounded. So I think especially as people do their emotional work, you have to really get in alignment where you're moving as one unit, on the positive, rather than being spliced and diced and sort of, jankied around, feeling like a janky person that, this, I'm not kind of on play. You feel it's all over the place and you kind of feel like things aren't ever going to work. That is an attitude, that is a mindset, oftentimes that is fostered by a truth that you're holding. I am a victim. I have been hurt. I've been damaged beyond repair. Whatever your sweeping generalizations, are. Someone like me can never have that or make it there. Really look at times when you have been able to experience to the opposite, where you are a winner. But victims oftentimes have a difficulty owning that and giving credit to yourself where credit is due, because once again, that would contradict your truth. So people will develop like an imposter syndrome. They won't really, they'll maybe, do a good job by something, but they don't really feel that they do a good job, because in their truth, in their hearts, all they hear is, the negative criticism or the old comments, or you can't do that, you can't have that. So that's playing all the time, so it can be really like a very strong groove, so you need to be able to sort of flex and work with that sort of incessant, belief. And so in really working on it, like in the privacy of these videos, is to say, wow, life is so much broader. I can see so much more now, and I'm comfortable with keeping those events in their place in my past. Once you get to that acceptance versus resentment or anger or hostility, which then can be either turned in on the self or others, which keeps you down, sabotages you, causes you to mess things up, when you could have thought in the moment, why don't I just do this? But instead, your lack of self-belief says, I can't make it. And then you foul up, you stumble, you fall, you hit your head, you hit your knee, you mess up your shoulder, you overeat, overdrink, do drugs, something that then, reaffirms this victim mentality, which oftentimes then will create a whole host of coping mechanisms. And people don't feel like they're really experiencing life. They kind of feel like, I'm not doing something quite right here. What is it? So oftentimes it's, it's catering to the victim within, so you have to be careful that you cater to the winner within, and realize that the universe is at peace with you. The victim, I think they always harbor the feeling and the fear then, a lot of fear that the universe is not okay with me, or, life is not okay with me. This person certainly wasn't okay with me. This person certainly betrayed me. This person certainly conned me, or this person, violated or, cheated on me or betrayed me behind my back. This person didn't give me what I need. This is unfair. I've been treated with, unwarranted and unjust and unfair ways. And so you have to realize that, you have to move your perfect self, your divine self, your wisdom and your knowledge out of the boxing ring. Like, you have to step away from the boxing ring, that victim mentality, that whole offshoot of programming that has been like coded in the computer like an instruction manual. Virus that, you're just all of a sudden feeling like you have like an emotional virus that's taking you down. Error, 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 circle, circle, circle. And then you're like, okay, never again is now. In other words, I'm no longer going to act out of that way anymore, out of the hostility, the foolishness, the overindulgence that makes me sick, the messed up finances that gives me a headache, my my personal life that I can't seem to ever make a change over, because you don't have leverage over self. So embracing yourself is to say, I forgive. My gift to myself is forgiveness to the past, and to forgive this person, and that is my gift. And if you can forgive the people who have wounded you, if you can forgive the critics for their ignorance, if you can forgive your teachers for their ignorance, or you can forgive the narcissist that they, might not be able to relate to people in specific ways that you need, you want, you desire, and so it is. But oftentimes it's very difficult to see that. It's difficult to see that and then sort of process that in your being. And then you just let it be at I am. You don't have to put a judgment statement over that. You don't have to put any other state. It's okay just to be. And allow yourself just to be. That's a sublime experience. Taking in the majesty of where you are. Just sort of that divine wholesomeness or divine holiness. And, allow that to sort of purify you within. And allow a new truth to be set where pain was in its place. I was strong. I was authentic. I was me, and I am all the better for this. And interpreting that, because it's going to make you stronger and teach you what you don't want to do to other people, or you don't want to have continued to, done to yourself. And so now that you are matured, you have the ability to reorchestrate these emotions, and really alchemize this through a change of process, mental, working through, and acceptance of this person, and that, forgive them, for any hurts or what they might say, trespasses they have done against us. I think that's part of the Lord's Prayer. It's like a trespassing. And, they know oftentimes not what they do, or they do know what they do. And oftentimes, the hurt is designed to hurt you and to manipulate. But that was then, this is now. I've had enough of that. Enough is enough. Never again is now. Period. It's just proclaiming that to be the truth. I think that's a statement in the Jewish tradition. I mean, they have that a lot on their synagogues, which has a very specific meaning for them. But I think a lot of people can relate to that statement. In other words, they feel that they have been a product of their society and a product of societal problems that have overwhelmed them and engulfed them. And they're like, no, this does not have to engulf me. I can turn this off. I do not have to, just because I don't want to surround myself with negative news doesn't mean that I'm uninformed. Just because I don't want to absorb all this negativity doesn't mean that I'm not strong. Just because I don't want to be, treated in this way doesn't make me a demanding person. Realizing these things, that you are okay to change and alchemize and, embrace your past, even the parts that hurt. A lot of people want to disown that. They might not be, very proud of those moments, or they might be very embarrassed. And this might create a lot of social anxiety moving forward because, you have, I don't want to say some internal weakness, but you've got a soft spot, a sensitivity that you need to nurture and protect. And that is all well and good. That makes you victorious. That, you walk with this. there was a friend who was in, they had a band way back in the day, and they had a song that was called It Walks With Me. So it's like your personal integrity, it walks with you. I mean, that's kind of the interpretation I feel. In other words, and the divine walks with you. And so if you can understand and not judge the universe, like Dalai Lama says, don't judge those people who were abusive. I mean, sure, you brushed up against some, intense situations. Well, you came through it, and now it's made you all the better, all the wiser. So you can kind of, place a value on some painful times. But of course, you people want to go more towards pleasure. So then developing a pleasure, oftentimes with pleasure, looking back, oftentimes where there was pain, is difficult. You can say, wow, and say, I am so strong to have endured that. That was really tough. And that is a character builder. That makes you, that's the fiber of your being. This is the texture of your soul. I mean, this is what you are built for. This is what you're carved from. This is, how the sculptor has made your experience. Like the big G, whatever you want to call it, the great white spirit of the north, the wind of the west. I don't know what you're going to call it. The big whatever, the big easy. I don't know what you're going to call it, but it's whoever that is with you, and then it is divine, and it does have a design, but it'll flourish moving for you forward. And part of the joy is finding the tools. So joy, laughter, happiness, fulfillment, creativity, freedom, joyfulness, being silly, giggling, all these things are healing experiences that will then replace, that victimhood. But you have to sometimes jog it into place to get it out of the rut. It's like you have to reset the password and jog your computer system to move forward. So to get out of the victim mentality is to, oftentimes is hindsight is 20/20. And you can realize you were small, helpless. I mean, that's all you had. You did the best you could. Amen. I mean, thank God you pulled through where you did. You've done great. You have to be able to look through that and be like, oh my God, and really applaud yourself, even through the pain. If you can have, immerse the feeling of joy and compassion into those painful moments of your past. John Bradshaw, Healing and Rescuing the Wounded Inner Child, or something to that effect. One awesome book. I mean, complete pioneer in his area. But if you can just hold that child, really like you hold any child, the you that was wounded. I've got you now. You are okay. I've got you now. You are okay. The victim was slapped on you, and you accepted it and let me super glue that in, victim. So oftentimes people have a hand in their own negative label. They perpetuate it. They've rememorized it. They've got a great muscle memory for how to be down and out. I mean, they never, venture. They never take an adventure. They never go for it. They never, or they over push themselves, to try to sort of break that numb out that victim mentality. So over obligate, overdo, overcompensate, over drink, over drug, over. I mean, and it's just like you feel like you can't even know the person because they're buried there in all their facade and stuff that's there to make them feel good, but they don't feel good within, So you're not, treating the cause is creating the problem. You're just looking at the symptom rather than the cause itself. So you really got to be able to go deep and have that depth of character with yourself, and know that that's an admirable quality. I have depth of character. If you've been around a lot of people who are very surface, exploitative, think that they're above the law, can betray others and think nothing of it, is that how you want to be? Is that, and so how, no, okay, then you're not, it's very important then to have also a role model that you can look up to. So if you're missing a role model from your past, a parent, a teacher, a priest, a boss, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, where you don't have that healthy role model and that's causing a lot of foul ups again and again and again, then you need to personally choose and select a role model that is exemplary of the traits and qualities and way that they would handle things, that you look up to. And oftentimes what's really interesting, I find that the people who others look up to or who they admire, I think people admire the very people that they have similar qualities to. They look up to people who they have similar experiences, even though they might not know about it. Previous, things in their past, things in their family, their work, their treatment of work, their treatment of creativity, their treatment of whether you solve things in your life or not, whether you make big contributions to life or not, is oftentimes dictated by that. So you have to realize that the divine is trying to guide you and show you that in perspective, show you that more positive perspective. But you have to let go of the abuser and let go of any resentment that has created then a trauma bond in order to sort of break free and be able to, be the hand of your own, and sort of create and mold and shape your life. You do have the ability to do that, but if you're still sunk in the victim mentality to a certain degree, then you won't really execute or, engage in that type of behavioral change. And so people then feel like, I'm unhappy. This is not my life. I feel powerless. This is not fulfilling me. So, then they say, I've done all this work and it's for naught, so then they go on to sabotage themselves. That's the old victim speaking. So you might need to have like a little caricature name for that victim mentality. And, there it goes. There goes, the victim again, or you might call it, there goes Debbie Downer again, or Danny Doo-Doo, or whatever it is that you equate like a silly name for that victim. And so you can kind of then identify it and then give it a little name, different from really all that your potential is and your passion and what you're built for, because oftentimes that victim is just a fragment. It's oftentimes then, it can become a deep fragment, but you can kind of really, wiggle it out, by following the wires like in a vehicle. Whoa, it started and connected there. Let's yank this out. Let's like replug it somewhere else so we can get some more juice out of this, And so looking at that victim mentality and then what you had to do to survive, you might say, that was, I was grabbing at straws there. Thank God I'm not grabbing at straws anymore. So then you can say, hey, I'm going to alchemize this victim mentality, and I'm not going to do those things that I did as a victim. I'm going to change my behavior. I'm going to think a little bit more rationally. It's okay. I can trust myself now, even though I have been violated and betrayed, and that has disrupted my trust. I can reignite trust in myself. I deserve to have trust, belief, and faith that cannot be broken. I deserve. And so, if you keep that and then really begin to nurture that and then work in that affirmation through your days, you will find that you're developing trust and sound trust that you can, and find who you can actually trust and who you can't. There's going to be people in this world who you cannot trust. So it is. Then don't trust them. Thank you very much. I'm going to exit stage left. Thank you very much. I'm going to exit stage right. Thank you very much. Here comes my phone or whatever. You don't have to continue the negative vicious cycle. If there's a payoff though from the cycle, you got the ups and downs and the kiss and make up, then there's a payoff to your victim mentality. So you're going to keep that baby going if there is a payoff. So realize then to get some of this under your awareness so you don't feel so mystified about why you're not happy or mystified why you haven't, changed, because oftentimes the change would contradict your truth or contradict your identity that you hold in yourself. So just like people might have an identity, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict. if they have these statements, that means they cannot envision themselves without the drink or without the drug. Or they might say, I think in the medical community, they might just say, I have alcoholism, meaning I can't control the drink. The drink is drinking me. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. He'd say, if you can listen to his books on tape here on YouTube, if you don't want to get the book, you can do a lot of books on tape here on YouTube, and you can look up Napoleon Hill. But I think it's really interesting because he says, after 2 or 3 drinks, which I think, I don't know if he was drinking the hard stuff. I don't drink it. But, he'd say after 2 or 3 drinks, the drink would start drinking me. So he became powerless. And I think that's kind of what relationships with narcissists or psychopaths will do. You feel, it'll give you that victim mentality of being betrayed or isolated. And, it'll cause you to feel that, I am a victim. In other words, and feeling that it's always going to plague you, or I always have this sensitivity. If so, then you have to just keep it in check and own that sensitivity. I'm a sensitive drinker. I'm a sensitive eater. I'm a sensitive talker. I'm, a social engager. I'm, a sensitive social influencer. Whatever it is, own that strength. Don't be embarrassed, because if someone, had violated your I am or your identity previously, and it's not an energetic match of what your potential and who you are, then thank God you moved through that. I mean, give yourself a whoop whoop, amen. Thank God that was then, that this is different now. I mean, go, woo, thank God, you made it through. Those were some hard times. Hey, it's something you can share, but you're all the better for it. So realize, when you're feeling that, and to what truth of yourself is it going to contradict, and say, no, actually, it is okay for me to be a winner. It's okay for me to own my strengths. It's okay for me. I'm not going to get tomatoes hurled at me, by life. Life is not going to come up and try to hit me below the knees. Life isn't going to, hit me and jab me in the stomach. People have this sort of fear tape that's running all the time because it was set up as their truth in that victim mentality. So if it's giving you some hardship, be willing to then, reframe that and really give yourself credit where, even if giving yourself credit contradicts your truths, you see, that's why you might have that struggle negotiating the positive identity. And so it is, but make sure, you get a little bit more balance each and every day. It doesn't have to be a big, huge change, but small steps are what win it. Some people think, oh, it's got to be this big, huge thing, and then all of a sudden, everything is good again. You're going to have to trust the process,